All right, so here we have the primary colors, which are red, yellow, and blue. And from these colors, we can make secondary and tertiary colors. The first secondary color that I'm going to make is orange, and you make that with yellow and red. So when you deal with yellow, I like to pretend like it's white. So it's gonna get dirty really, really quick. So you're gonna take a big blob of yellow, and I'm gonna start off with like the smallest amount of red, and I'm gonna slowly mix that in. And the color that I'm looking for is the color that you would find in like a Crayola or whatever crayon pack you have. So that looks pretty close to that generic orange color. Over here on my piece of paper, I am going to put just a little bit of this orange so you can see that I've actually made it. You should do the same thing on your paper. The next color I'm going to make is a tertiary color. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix the orange with the yellow, and then I will mix the red and the orange together. So I want to make my yellow orange first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a paper towel and I'm going to wipe off as much of the orange as I possibly can. And then I'm going to take just the smallest amount of orange in the whole world, and I'm going to mix it into the yellow. What I'm looking for when I make this is a color that is definitely no longer yellow, and it is not the same type of orange that I made before. So it should be way lighter. So that looks like a pretty good yellow orange right here. And I'm gonna place that color on this side. And had I done this correctly, I would have taken some yellow to begin with and placed it right here, because that is my primary color that I'm starting off with. So I'm gonna make my red orange next. So I have a whole bunch of this orange just going on right here, and I'm gonna start off with just a little bit of red on the tip of my brush, and I'm gonna mix it into just a small part of the orange. I always wanna leave enough of the orange there so like I've got my original base color, because it's good to have a multitude of colors when you're doing your painting, because you're probably not going to have just one orange or one purple or one green in your project. I think I need a little more red. So when you paint, you kind of have to evaluate it every time as you go. And that is my red orange color. And then because I didn't put my primary red on here, I will put that on here next. So that should be next to the red orange. So I'm a third of the way done with my color wheel. And because I have red on my brush, what I'm gonna make next is violet. And my whole life I learned that it was called purple, but then when I went to art school, I found out that there's no real colors such as purple. It's really violet. It's part of the color spectrum. Roy G. Biv. There's no P for purple. There's a V for violet. When you make violet, which I'm probably going to wind up calling purple at some point, it's almost an equal amount of red to blue, but I kind of like my purple to be a little bit more on the red side. But what I'm gonna try and go for that generic purple again from the crayon box. So this looks, we'll just put it here. So it's a little dark, but it's gonna be okay. We're gonna call that my original purple. I have a whole bunch of purple on here. I'm just gonna scoop up like about this much red onto my paintbrush, like this right here. And what I'm trying to do is create a purple that has like a whole bunch of red in it. So that actually looks pretty good. I'll place that right here on my paper. And then I also want to make a blue violet, so I'm going to take like just a little bit of blue. That's kind of a lot of blue. So if you get too much on your brush, you can always just kind of tap it off like that. And again, I'm going to leave a little bit of my purple paint on there, so that way I can always make some more red violet or blue violet if I so desire. Okay, that looks pretty good. So do you see how each of these are their own distinct value? Like this one looks way more red than my original violet, and this blue violet looks a lot more blue than the violet that I made. So now I have one last secondary and two tertiary colors that I need to make, and those are the greens. So every time I switch from one color to another, I need to wash my brush really good. Otherwise, you get kind of like a paint contamination happening, and I don't want any of that purple that I just made in my green. So I'm going to take a big blob of this yellow. I'm going to put it right here. I'm going to take just a little bit of blue and mix it in here. And what I'm trying to make is that green from the crayon box. So this is pretty light. So I'm going to add just a little bit more. And I'm going to say that's a fine looking green. I'll put it down here. Okay, so that is just green all by itself. And then if I was going to do some yellow green, well, I think I have enough. I'll just scoop up some more, and I'll just kind of mix that into here. So see how like this is nice and light green, has a lot of yellow in it. So there's something that's happening here. I didn't mix enough paint. So instead of having kind of like, see how this looks nice and you got like a thick coat happening on here, this will dry with those brush strokes, the brush stroke showing. So you probably want to add like just a little bit more paint, so that way you can avoid that problem. And I think it's a good idea to mix always on the paint palette, which is this thing that's going on right here, because if you make some really ugly color and then you put it right onto your painting, then it's not a goner. You can always clean it up, but you don't want to ruin your painting. So I need to make my blue green, so I'm going to take, that's kind of a lot of blue. You want to add the color in slowly, so notice how I blotted it off. I've got some on the tip. I'm just going to mix it in right here. Does that look darker? Yes, it does. I'm going to put it right here on the paper, and I'm going to finish this off by putting on my primary color of blue, because it just didn't make it to the party, but it has now arrived. And there you go. We have a completed color wheel.
Dude, you did that